Welcome to the podcast entitled Health and Wellness Briefs, Tactics for a Healthier and Better You. I'm Dr. Brenda Melnyk, Vice President for Health Promotion and Chief Wellness Officer for The Ohio State University. This podcast series is brought to you by my CWO office and our wonderful Buckeye Wellness team in order to provide you with evidence-based micro-learning modules to optimize your health and well-being. Every podcast in this series starts by taking a dose of vitamin G. Given that vitamin G or gratitude is one of the simplest research-based strategies to improve mood, sleep, and optimism and reduce stress and blood pressure, please take a few seconds now to think about who or what you are grateful for today. Give a dose of vitamin G to someone today for even more benefit. Well, today's topic is how to boost and sustain your energy throughout the entire day. Wouldn't it be great to wake up with awesome energy and not experience any lulls during the day? I have a fabulous expert to talk with me about this particular topic, Dr. Brenda Buffington. I was so fortunate to recruit Brenda to Ohio State to work with me and my wellness team several years ago. She is executive director of our health athlete program that is focused on boosting and sustaining energy. Welcome, Brenda, to this podcast. I'm delighted you're here.
Thank you, Bern, and I'm delighted to be here. Love talking about this topic specifically. So thanks for having me.
Great. Well, let's get started. Let me ask you a first question. What are some research-backed strategies for boosting energy levels throughout the day without relying on that cup of caffeine or stimulants?
Yeah, I love talking about this because, if maybe some of our audience members are similar to myself, a few years ago, I found that I would run out of energy before I ran out of time, like in my day. And so that didn't seem right. I didn't want to do that. So I decided to look into this, and Health Athlete really did help answer a lot of these questions. I'd have to say in no particular order. Let me just mention a few, and I'd love to talk in more detail, maybe a little later as we speak about these. But one would be sleep, for sure, sleep. And get a good quality and quantity of sleep. And, it's recommended that we adults get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. And again, we can talk a little more about that later too. Another thing would be hydration, right? So getting fluid into us. And there's some better choices and not as good choices. And one you mentioned, caffeine, is not a great choice as far as being a hydration tool for us. It actually is a dehydration. Caffeine is for us. So we don't really want to depend on that. And it's fake energy that we get from that. So your point was taken well. We do know, too, that we can get some, I can give you some amounts. We know that the United States National Academies of Sciences and Engineering and Medicine has told us that men in general, depending on your activity level and maybe your body size also, but in general, about 15.5 cups of fluid a day, water ideally, but some others are good too. Women, around 11.5 cups per day of fluids. So that can help us do a lot of different things, keep us energized, among others. And then the next one will be fueling your body. So, there are a lot of different ways out there that people talk about fueling their bodies. And many times you get the word diet thrown in there. But I'd like to avoid that word diet. I'd like to just simply say, how can we best fuel our body with what we need, right? So I don't know if any of you have ever been starving, really, really hungry, and you note your energy level plummets, your mental state is totally unfocused, right? You're even maybe a little less than your best emotionally, right? A little short with people and just hangry is a great word, right? The hungry, angry one. So, specifically we find from Johnson & Johnson's Human Performance Institute that eating light and eating often is a really great method of fueling our bodies. And in particular, trying to get high nutrients and lower calories with that. And then we could talk a little more about 80 and 20 when it comes to need foods and want foods too. And then I guess my one last point on this would be moving your body. Okay. And again, we could talk a lot about that one, but we move to generate energy, to increase productivity. My gosh, I have found it even increases my creativity, right? And many different places, from Mayo Clinic to the Cleveland Clinic to Harvard Health and the CDC have suggested that just by moving, we are increasing oxygen and also nutrients then all around our bodies, but especially to our brain. And that can revitalize us, right? It can make us more awake and then make us feel like doing more. So those are just some of the things that I would recommend.
That's a great start, Brenda. I remember going to the athlete, and it was called Corporate Athlete, about 14 years ago. And I remember one of the first things we were taught in this workshop that you and I now teach to people here at Ohio State is we don't need more time. We need more energy with the time we have. I used to read time management books like crazy because I always felt if I could just manufacture some more time, I could do so many more things. But I did learn some of these valuable tips, which we still teach today. And your point, sitting, needing to move more, because sitting is truly killing our population. We know that even if we sit 3 hours a day, we increase our heart attack and stroke risk by about 30%. But sitting also zaps our energy for sure. So I tell everybody, make it a habit. Stand more, sit less. Move more, sit less. And you're going to be amazed at how much more energy that you have. So my next question is, speaking of activity, exercise is often touted as an energy booster, and frankly, exercise is great evidence-based treatment for a variety of chronic conditions. But how can different types of exercise routines impact energy levels? And what exercise strategies do you recommend for maintaining energy and vitality?
I love that word, vitality. Yes, basically our vigor for life, right? Our love for life. Well, really simply stated, as I mentioned before, moving your body will require you to circulate more blood, which gives us more oxygen and nutrients, and specifically glucose, right? We know that the brain needs oxygen and glucose to stay alive, so it will revive our brain. So just by, as you pointed out, going from a sitting position to even just a standing position, right? Let alone moving your body more than just standing or doing some kind of, squats or something. We can use movement or exercise as a recovery break from mental or emotional stress and strain. I know personally I use that as a strategy very often throughout a day. Sitting, being very highly mentally stimulated and maybe even emotionally stressed, I find that, moving away from that and using body movement, whether you want to call it exercise or you call it gardening, right? Just moving that body, that can help me recover and actually be more productive when I come back to finish that mental project that I was working on. So I would answer the rest of your question by highly suggesting that we recommend that 3 days of about 30 minutes of cardio work. So that is something where you would be continuously moving, and it doesn't have to be fast, doesn't have to be high impact. It can be a walk. It can be a stationary bike. Heck, it could be a, seated chair aerobics session. But we do want to continuously do that especially for our heart, lungs, and our circulatory system, right? And then the other really important one would be resistance training, or weight training, or strength training goes by. And we're finding that as we age, we do know that our muscle mass will decrease unless we do something to combat that. And we also know that by having good, vital, and strong muscles, that we're going to decrease the problems that we have when we fall, if we fall. We were able to catch ourselves and react faster. So I know that that's something that motivates me as I continue to age. I want to be strong all the way through. So I guess those would be the biggest things. I guess along with that would be the intensity levels. So we could talk in more detail if you'd like about the idea of frequency. So how many times a week? And I'm suggesting, 3 times of cardio, 2 times of resistance. Intensity, that's a big one. We don't want to waste our time. So we want to make it tough enough, intense enough to really get something out of it. So we're suggesting it at least be a moderate intensity, which would be kind of like that, where I can speak 2 words, maybe 3. I can't sing, but I would speak a couple and then need to breathe. So that should do us.
A lot of people groan when they hear exercise. And that's why I think it's important to talk about this concept of just move, walk as a start. And don't set the goal so high that you fall off the wagon right away, because inch by inch, it's a cinch, yard by yard, it's hard. We have wonderful research to show now that even 11 minutes of movement and physical activity really has heart health and energy benefit. And we are here to tell you, you can do this, but make a commitment to start somewhere and know that it takes 30 to 66 days to form a new habit. One last question, because I think this one is so important. Mindfulness and stress management techniques are absolutely essential. What mindfulness practices or stress relief methods do you suggest for enhancing energy levels and reducing burnout?
Oh, I love this topic. Yeah. And for me, I love to know why I'm doing something. And years ago, before I started any kind of mindfulness practice, even as easy as just breathing and slowing down my heart rate, I thought it was kind of woo-woo. but I found out differently. And you just have to try it. And that would be my thing. If there's some naysayers out there thinking, I don't know, just try a simple thing. And I'll talk about that here in a second. So why mindfulness? Well, because when we're fully in the present, fully engaged in what is in front of us right now, we can be really, really productive. We can decrease our anxiety, which is always that worrying about the future, right? If we're in the present moment fully, we're not going to have, guilt and regret about something that just happened. That almost vanishes as an instant. It's some miraculous thing, but it is something you have to practice, to your point. So I would suggest practicing mindfulness by just observing your thoughts. Sometimes when something happens that it creates some emotion in you, just sort of press pause and think to yourself, okay, I am feeling angry. Identify it. Maybe it's I'm feeling sad. And then, let yourself feel it and know that you're a human. That is a common humanity in emotion. Another one might be practice mindfulness by focusing intently on the task at hand, something you're doing right now. Just maybe it's breathing. Maybe it is just, I'm just going to sit here and really feel kind of cool air coming in through my nose and then a little warmer air going out through my mouth. Simple. And it's amazing what that'll do to your blood pressure, your anxiety levels gone, your guilt. Another one might be this one, it's sort of a Zen proverb, really walk while we're walking, wash your hands and think that you are washing your hands. Just be in that moment, don't think about other things. And this could be even used with mindful eating. Really appreciating every morsel and taking your time as you eat that morsel. So yeah, those would be the biggest things, and there's so many other things we could do. We could basically, breathing, maybe it's belly breathing, put your hand on your belly and feel it go out as you breathe in, exhale slowly and just relax. Let your shoulders relax. But yeah, it's great stuff.
Those are all great evidence-based tips. And if you would like to get even more detailed with strategy, please sign up for our fabulous Health Athlete Energy Management Program. Thank you for listening to our Health and Wellness Briefs. Tune in to other podcasts in this series to learn more evidence-based tips for a healthier, happier, and better you.